Hey guys, happy weekend. I seem to be changing my plans on recording all the time. First, I wanted to tell all about the first day I went out before Christmas. Then, no, let's divide them into two sections to avoid um, a very long registration. Recording. Then I prepared the script, and before recording it, I left home once more. That's Thursday, and something else caught my attention. So, no plans. The plan dropped. After that, I had something important to share, but then I went out yesterday and here I am with new information and hopefully the final script. When I use, I will be using the terms recently and recent case. They both refer to the happenings between before Christmas and yesterday. And yes, Uh, in all those days when I went out, full harassment by skunk bikers and skunk mobiles and on foot. And yes, I seem to have been overly overcharged for a service. So everything business as usual. Um, On the days I do not go out, they march on the road in packs, just they always did, but do not stick to the same formations I had reported. Anyhow, they never do without bikers, even though bikers might move on the other side of the street. And They never miss showing up when it is dark outside. I like to think that they're ashamed of themselves for doing what they are doing or being what they are, but I think that's a wishful thinking. And about the plan, um, it is actually quite simple. We know that what has been going on since few years back is the same as what's going on right now. We know that the same people are doing the same thing, so everything is connected. So why not put all the events on those 3 days in one single recording? I don't know how long it's going to be, but hopefully not very long. Um, but first, I would like to discuss a sort of uh, side effect of all this on myself. It's a sort of social awkwardness I discovered. Just now that I go out more often and encounter different kind of people, uh, not only those, uh, those, I mean. So, um, in one of those days when I went out, I met a very nice person who I think may have had the intention to shake my hand. Uh, I very much like to shake hands. I like to transfer the good vibes from a positive person to another positive person. So, um, and that's why I very much loved to shake that person's hand too. Before pandemic, I was actually always shocked when something negative happened, but now I get shocked when something positive happens, which I think I can reverse back to what I like best. Totally different. So, anyways, the circumstance of my life has bended some of my ideals uh, due to more intense exposure to harassment by the gang after the pandemic. When I worked at the office, I was exposed to them about an hour in the morning and the same in the evening when I was going home. Or sometimes an overtime for them if I would go to the gym or shopping or whatever. After pandemic, they could harass me continuously um, as my house faced the street. Uh, I also spent most of my free time learning about stressful stuff like criminology, workplace bullying, and similar. Uh, of course, I did also things which I think I will enjoy later, like learning to do the recordings. I know they are not very brilliant, but for me it was quite a step. And preparing all the tools to post the recordings on the page and so on. Anyways, but um, still, because I was doing it for this reason, it was not 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 pleasant enough. So all that did not resonate with my spirit, and at the same time, I had to deal with more brutal bullying tactics by my ex-employer because, in contrary to the office environment, I could not fill in my colleagues right away when something happened. So um, then I went out only once per week, usually for grocery shopping, in an environment infested by the gang. Uh, then coming back home, starting uh, uh, to deal with the stress I experienced during those trips. I saw people, but almost zero encounter. I mean, I had zero encounter with humans. Um, the constant touch with criminality forced my focus to switch from life to whatever that was happening. I think it's a sort of a survival thing, something that happens probably to people going to the fronts, to fight or stuff like that. I never liked that, honestly. So I very much hope to return to be myself again and be again the person uh, who was shocked when saw something negative. That would be great. Now to that beautiful person, I hope is listening to this recording. Please accept my apology for being too consumed by my drama to enjoy your kindness and to return it. And please take care of your light. Now you might be wondering if, considering all the studying and all these years of practical criminology activity, I might be interested to start a career in that. Well, actually, extremely unlikely. You see, criminologists can see through the criminals and sometimes can help them change their life path if what led them to be criminals was the lack of opportunity or similar stuff, not because they're just wired to be criminals like these people here. Since dealing with them directly and absolutely involuntarily for so long, I have to admit that I have lost even the tiny tolerance I might have had for them a few years back before it all started. The adapted version of the wiring of my brain does not perceive any good in any criminal, and I consciously, totally consciously support this wiring system. All this makes me biased against them. Now, add also my complete lack of empathy for them. Uh, this lack of empathy blinds me from seeing the difference between a criminal and another criminal. Now imagine this happens. there is this criminal by circumstance has a good potential to convert to a good person. That person, if I handle uh, his or her case, uh, will be totally lost, which in turn could affect many lives directly and indirectly. So better leave it to unbiased people. Actually, not only that, let's leave everything to unbiased people. I think that would be something good for our planet in total. Now let's see about the plan. Let's go to the cabs. Now there is a fact. I checked the cabs IDs I had collected. None of them were driven by the real cab drivers. I mean, by the cab drivers to whose name the cab was registered. Anyhow, they disguised as cab drivers. They squeezed themselves, practically forced themselves uh, among some really nice and civilized cab drivers, uh, damaged the reputation of the whole industry. But of course, there are also exceptions, like the one I saw recently doubles as both gang member and legit cab driver. I had seen him often in LinkedIn. He worked with a local cab company. You know, the company I worked in was in LinkedIn, and when they needed cabs, they would usually ask this company to send them cabs. So we would meet them very often. Um, One day, I ended workday earlier to go to Myrtle because I wanted to print some flyers to distribute. It was sometimes almost at the beginning. Um, I borrowed my colleague's phone to call the local cab company because I wanted to avoid uh, uh, getting a gang cab, in case my phone was bugged and they would hear the conversation and switch the cab. This guy picked me up. On the way to Myrtle, I saw the whole pack of gang and pawns going to the meeting point in the road at the train station, where I was supposed to be expected to appear about 15 minutes later from that time. I saw the driver of the leading skunk mobile. He could not see me because I was in the back seat. A few seconds to take a look at him closely, and I had the displeasure to see him and his gang buddies every other place I moved to. So, a regular practically. He suddenly turned his head to the opposite direction. I assumed that the cab driver had signaled him with the lights or somewhere in a different way. Um, but I have to admit that was a very good day. I really enjoyed it because I had practically stood up the pack. Oh, that felt good. And recently, that cab driver was driving one of the infamous black sedans, and definitely not just passing by. Now, another fact. I am under the impression that the cabs are blackmailed by the criminals with different tactics, depending on the situation. There are those coming from member countries. They hang out with pals from the same country. If they are asked by them to do something, they would do it to avoid isolation or damage others could eventually cause, or whatever reason. I witnessed it firsthand with one of them I actually trusted. He was um, a cab driver. Uh, I always called when I was going to the airport after I moved. I moved to Barn and to Dock. Anyways, but I wouldn't know if he joined them voluntarily or for a different reason. I saw him once uh, being in the same pack, but well, I can't I can't know why and how. Anyway, and then there are those from non-member countries. They, of course, can face the same kind of situation like the East European, but they have also other vulnerabilities because they need a visa and they need work permit. So this makes them more exposed to threats. In a recent case, when I got into a cab, driver who was not a local or East European, uh, he knew me. I had never met him, and the look he gave me when I presented myself with an alias was priceless. Well, everybody seems to know me. I'm the only person who doesn't know anybody, and it cannot be through this page because there are no pictures, no films of me in this page, and I'm not going that often out so that the people know me. Um, well, my bet is on cyberbullying and deepfake stuff, whatever. Anyways, the car finally started. Finally started to drive, and then 2 3 minutes after he started to drive, there were some people honking horns behind it. He was nervous, and I made a very I mean, actually not very, but the most polite comment I could come with about those people, and I commented something about how barbaric they were. Well, um, and recently again, I called the cab company. The cab driver was a local and clearly a member of the gang. Naturally, he didn't match the ID either. Uh, what was interesting, he couldn't resist honking horns while I was still in the cab, and did it once for apparently no reason. Actually, there were no cars around, but wrong. I was the reason. So I got off the car before arriving home, and I know I had to refuse it in the first place, actually. Another remarkable incident. Oh, before going to that, let's go to the local cab drivers, actually. Well, um, in small environments, the people develop a sort of sense of unity. But this sense of unity sometimes is misinterpreted, and the expectations of people of each other um, rises a lot. So I think if the local cab drivers are being approached, they will mostly be approached using this this keyword unity. We must hold together and so on to get their interest. So, but of course, I'm sure there are also exceptions. Uh, There are always exceptions. So now about a remarkable incident I again witnessed myself. It was the last time I was at the airport. I was returning from the last pre-pandemic vacation in 2019. Um, the cabs and cars are not allowed to park at the exit of the airport's building, except for fast drop of a passenger or uh, take a passenger very fast. That day, when I left the building, imagine this. three cars were parked back to back in front of the exit. That was very unusual. I'd never seen at any airport. And not here before that. I looked to my right because there was a cab rack like 2 meters away to the right. There was only a silver SUV parked there. Well, I had never seen SUVs as cabs. Well, that was weird too. Um, Now, right in front of me was the red cab, and in front of it, a car similar to the one which had dropped me to the airport 3 weeks ago, and a gray sedan in front of the second one with a guy jumping up and down, waving to get my attention. Um, the last two had no signs, and I thought none of them looks very promising, but then I prefer to get into the red cab. Uh, When he was driving, he said something which concept I could not understand. I could understand each word, but I could not understand the concept, what he meant to say. He said, and with referring to himself, I must be the most jealous. He was quiet and down during the whole trip, and I thought for a while about the whole scene at the airport, and which included also him. Um, when I chose his cab, he might have lost a bet or a deal or something that could have a consequence for him. Oh, I wished I knew about it. I have heard about a cab mafia operating here and wonder how badly um, it can influence how the cab industry functions. Here we have lots of laws and regulations, but also way above reasonable tolerance towards criminality, which, in my opinion, is the consequence of very insufficient dedicated resources and support and protection for the law enforcement. Uh, Cabs and other transport vehicles should be protected against threats to be able to do their part in moving the economy. The trust of the passengers towards them is crucial too. Ambulances usually symbolize help in most complicated situations, like emergency. If they are free to take part in harassments, like in my case, I cannot identify them with their original role any longer. And I'm convinced that those who witness an ambulance or any other vehicle from which we expect a higher level of morality participating in a harassment will also experience a sort of frustration because anybody could be next. So, anyways, but there's also this that um, the ambulance, the people in the ambulance could be as fake as the cabs I discussed before. But anyways, the impression lasts. Um, Now, the same goes for services like shops, banks, with which we deal on daily basis. Um, Even the most progressive legislation become totally useless if they cannot be enforced. If they can be compromised every time somebody influential has a grudge against another person, or if a person from the neighborhood should ask for a favor. This doesn't look good. Now back to the caps. Um, the idea behind compromising cab services for me is to restrict my movement, to prevent encountering uh, normal people, to socialize, and to keep day-to-day life in check. This has few advantages for the gang, like creating a black hole of only evil around me by canceling the idea of the existence of good people from my mind to promote acute pessimism, hopefully leading to bad mental health. Uh, and also to prevent interaction with authorities, um, to keep feeding normal people's minds with whatever might about me that's convenient to them, uh, without risking normal people could ever start to think, ask questions, or similar in case they should come in contact with me, or I could do the same. Another advantage is to create excessive stress by designing obstacles uh, in resolving day-to-day issues. So if there are difficulty to move, then maybe I will have different tasks to perform, and I have to practically they get accumulated one on top of each other, and there will be a lot, and that would be a lot of stress, a lot of delays, and that's actually a heaven for the gangs. And a similar tactic, like in this case, is used also for engineered gossips. Uh, Spread a false gossip about a person and never let that person know what the gossip is about. Well, actually, I had a lot of difficulty to get to know about those three gossips. I don't know if that's all, anyways. The reason, as long as the person doesn't know what it is about, they cannot present his or her own version to check the facts. Happy days for the gang. The harassment can continue without interference. Um, Recently, I had the opportunity to see the kind of people who sounded horns and sirens in the case of the ambulances. Unfortunately, they matched the profile I had in mind of them. Just imagine, I had preached about the effects of what they did on environment and on pollution and on the world and planet. Oh, that was so very naive of me. I hope they choked while laughing at that part of the recording. Mm, yeah, I'm still being very nice to them. Now, let's go to bigots. Recently again, I was walking on the street, then decided to move back because I noticed that I was not going to the right direction. Then saw a grayish SUV right in front of me. Two women, two bigots, both locals, sitting in the front seat, very rigidly, looking in front of them. Just think two Lego minifigures, just as rigid as that. I had taken few shots of one of them um, before moving to where I live now, and had seen the other one in some occasions too. Um, on Thursday, when I was waiting for the cab on the street, yeah, the one with the young person, the second one drove by in a cab, slowed down for a few seconds, very close to me. She leaned towards the window and looked at me. I have actually a comment on that, but I think it's better if I keep it to myself or to say it to some other people. Sorry, it's not that I don't care about who is listening. The only thing is that I believe I need to keep some sort of discretion. You know, this is actually uh, a page, is a public page. So I can spot bigots because, as I had mentioned, in one of the previous recordings, people with similar mindset look also very much the same. Male or female, that doesn't make any difference. This goes also for criminals and for the people doing the same hobby or sometimes doing the same job. It's just a matter of the mindset. And by the way, I finally Googled bigots and bigotry, but did not really come across a one good comprehensive article. I found different ones, but each of them was interesting in a part or two. Anyway, I'm going to attach the ones I discuss in the comments tab, as always. And let's see. And going to give you a preview on each of them. Anyways, this lack of a comprehensive article, it's very weird, as if bigots are extinct, something like dinosaurs. Well, they're out there. They're out there and probably as destructive as they have always been. Um, Even though they don't have the same capability to harm uh, at the same level they could do centuries ago. I think that their impact now in its society depends on the tolerance level for bigotry in that society. Now to the articles. Um, there is one on difference between bigotry and prejudice. It says bigotry is a result of extreme devotion and blind faith, while prejudice is a result of mental categorization of information. Another one says bigotry is almost universally considered wrong because it robs others of their rights as human beings through discrimination and persecution. And then on different forms of bigotry. Bigotry is prejudgment against any identifiable minority or disadvantaged population based on, in no particular order, its race, nationality, ethnicity, religion, gender, age, sexual orientation. Personally, I know of people who experience some sort of psychological trauma or a disappointment, and the method they chose to deal with it was to put on blinders, refuse to a group of people, each of them with a package of their own, and just staying together all the time. When we socialize always with the same group of people, uh, and only them, and only in that environment, we lose the ability to see anything else other than what is within that that group, that place. We become bigots and fanatics if our we have got the predisposition for that. Um, Anyways, I have to also say something about how cozy bigots and the gang seem to get. It reminds me of a saying, it's a proverb. It says, lie down with dogs and you will rise with fleas. I cannot tell who passes fleas to who, or if it goes both ways or one way. Anyways, another thing that happened is about a favorite strategy of the gang. Um, they use it always, and they never stop because they need to update their information on that. They approach the people who live close to me. At the moment, I live in a setting similar to a bed and breakfast. Um, a girl, not local, who left some months ago uh, manifested the same symptoms as the other people I had lived with in other places did. She was approached by the gang. You know, it's like everything has creates a pattern, and just see the pattern. And if you can see the pattern, then you know. I filled her in about the situation, and fortunately, and totally unexpectedly, she reacted totally differently than others did. She listened. She listened to my version of the facts, asked questions. That was so refreshing. When she left, when she left the country, she was very concerned about the situation, but she didn't share any more information with me. A guy, also not local, occupying another street here, was openly hostile. I always wondered about his level of engagement with the gang. He will be back soon. Let's see um, what stuff is he carrying with himself now. The last guy who left recently, also not local, told me before leaving with a smile, everything will be over soon. As if the whole situation was presented to him as something funny to laugh about, something amusing. I don't know how this could be done. I had told him about the situation too, after I noticed he was approached by the gang as well. Anyhow, I will not be surprised to know the gang has made a video game with me in it to showcase and their skill to the next psychopath who shops for their services. I bet their presentation sounds something like this. We are the gang stalkers, also known as Section 1 and Section 2. People talk about us. Check Extreme Bullying the Anatomy on Facebook and see for yourself. Call us right now to make an appointment with our consultant today for personalized solutions. The first 2 months are on us. Then I can imagine small prints. So I see that it says no money back guarantee. And then there is an extremely small print, very small print. It says, by signing this contract, you are agreeing not to hold us liable for any heart attacks you may suffer. Okay. So, thank you so much for following this part. My God, it's almost getting 40 minutes. This is a record. Again, happy weekend, and thank you so much uh, for staying this long with this recording.